You noticed it too. Drive past any big job site today, and you will not see a single wheel tractor scraper cutting dirt. The machine that built the interstate highway system just disappeared, and nobody told you why. I know why. I spent years inside the dealer network that sold those machines, serviced them, and then quietly stopped supporting them. I signed the invoices. I handed customers the keys, and I handed them the trap right along with it. Here is the part that will bother you. The Caterpillar scraper did not vanish because it stopped working. It vanished because a working machine you could fix yourself was bad for business. Somebody did the math, and the math said a farmer or a contractor who owns a simple machine for 30 years is a customer they lose. Before this is over, I am going to walk you through a document that was signed in April of 2023, the exact clause that scares the manufacturers, and a class of machine you can still buy right now that has no computer to lock at all. If you own irons sitting in a shed today that you are afraid to plug a laptop into, this is built for you, not for some buyer shopping next year. I remember standing on a gravel pad outside a shop in the spring, watching a man run his hand along the side of a 1969 scraper his father bought new. That machine had moved more dirt than anything on my lot with a screen in it, and I was the one who had to tell him we could not get him apart anymore. That was the day I started paying attention to what I was really selling. So let me start at the beginning, with the machine itself, because you have to understand what we took away from you before you can understand how we did it. A wheel tractor scraper is one of the most honest machines ever built. It cuts a thin slice of earth, carries it in a bowl, and lays it back down somewhere else, all in one pass, at speed, no dump truck, no excavator loading it, no second operator. One man, one machine, moving thousands of yards a day. In the 1950s and 60s, the open bowl scraper was how America got its highways, its dams, its airport runways. Caterpillar built the 621, the 631, the big 657 that took 2 engines to move. Farmers bought smaller ones and older ones to level fields, build ponds, cut waterways, and shape their own land without begging a contractor for a date on his calendar. And here is the thing that mattered most. The old ones were mechanical. Cable-operated or simple hydraulics, a diesel engine you could actually see, and a bowl that either went up or went down. A man with a wrench, a service manual, and a weekend could keep one of those alive for decades. I have seen scrapers from the Eisenhower era still cutting dirt on farms in the 2000s. That was normal. That was the whole point. Now walk a modern job site. The scraper is gone, replaced by an excavator loading a fleet of articulated dump trucks. On paper, the industry will tell you it is about efficiency in wet conditions and tight quarters, and some of that is true. But nobody in those glossy explanations ever mentions the quiet part. An excavator and 6 trucks is 7 machines with 7 engines, 7 sets of electronics, 7 telematics subscriptions, and 7 service contracts. One scraper is one machine you might never bring back to the dealer. Which fleet do you think we wanted on that job site? That is the first layer. Somebody profited when the simple machine went away, but that alone would just be a business decision. It gets darker because they did not just stop building the honest machine. They rebuilt every machine after it so you could never work on it alone again. Therefore, you need to understand what happened to the wrench. When I started, a service call meant a man, a toolbox, and a manual. When I left, a service call meant a laptop and a password. And that password did not belong to you, and half the time it did not even belong to me. Every modern Caterpillar machine runs through electronic control modules, and the way you talk to those modules is a piece of software called CAT Electronic Technician, what the guys just called ET. On its face, ET is a diagnostic tool, and a good one. It reads codes, it shows you sensor data, it tells you what is wrong, fine. But here is what the brochure never spelled out to the man buying the machine. Certain jobs inside that software, the ones that actually bring a dead machine back to life, are locked behind what Caterpillar calls factory passwords. You cannot reflash an engine control module. You cannot change certain critical parameters. You cannot fully complete some repairs unless a code is generated on Caterpillar's side and fed back into the machine. Think about what that means. You can own the machine outright. You can own the laptop. You can even own a copy of the software. And you still cannot finish the repair because the last turn of the key is a password only the manufacturer controls. That is not a tool you bought. That is a permission slip you rent, one repair at a time. I watched this break a man once. He had a machine down in the middle of a job, a fault that a good mechanic diagnosed in 20 minutes. The fix required a reflash. The reflash required the dealer. The dealer required a technician who was 3 days out and billed portal to portal from the shop door. That man lost most of a week and a serious chunk of money, not because the repair was hard, but because he was not allowed to press the button himself. He had the skill. He did not have the password. And that gap, that little locked door, is where the money lives. Now understand, this is not one company being uniquely cruel. This is the whole heavy iron industry and the farm tractor industry right beside it running the same playbook. But it explains the scraper perfectly. The old scraper had no locked door, so the old scraper had to go. If what I am describing here cuts close to home, there is a book I wrote that goes even deeper into how this system was built and how owners are finding their way back out of it. It is called Fixed or Owned, and the follow-up is Break the Lock, two titles that came directly from the conversations I had with owners who felt exactly what you are feeling right now. I put everything in there that I could not say while I still had a dealership badge on my chest. You can find both in the description below, and if you are the kind of person who wants the full picture before the next invoice lands on your desk, that is where I would start. Now, back to the locked door. Because understanding the password is only the beginning of understanding the trap. And once I saw the locked door for what it was, I started seeing the second door behind it. Because a password on a repair is bad. A machine that can be shut off from 1,000 miles away is worse. Therefore, let me tell you about the black box on the frame. Almost every late model machine rolls off the line with a telematics unit. Caterpillar calls its system Product Link. The pitch is wonderful. And honestly, some of it is useful. It tracks hours, location, fuel burn, fault codes, maintenance reminders. If you run a big fleet, that data is gold. Nobody is going to pretend a telematics box is pure evil. But sit with what that box actually is. It is a cellular connection between your machine and the manufacturer, running whether you ask for it or not, reporting where your iron is, how hard it is working, and what is wrong with it, straight back to people whose income depends on your repairs. The same channel that sends a maintenance reminder can, on many machines, be used to disable equipment remotely. Read the fine print on modern equipment, and you will find language about the manufacturer's ability to remotely limit or shut down a machine framed as theft protection or a response to non-payment. Theft protection sounds great, right up until you realize the definition of who is allowed to run your machine is now written by somebody other than you. I never had to flip that switch on a customer, but I knew it existed. And knowing it existed changed how I looked at every machine on the lot. Because a tool you own does not answer to somebody else's server. A tool you own does not have an off switch in another state. The moment your machine can be reached from the outside, you no longer own a tool. You hold a subscription with wheels on it. The scraper, again, had none of this. A cable-operated bowl cannot phone home. A mechanical injection pump cannot be shut off by a server. The honest machine was uncontrollable, and an uncontrollable customer is the one thing this system cannot tolerate, so it was engineered out. Now here is where I need to turn and talk straight to the man who is already yelling at his screen, because I can hear you. You are thinking, that is fine for the fellow shopping for a new machine, but I already own this thing. I already have the laptop I am scared to plug in. I already have the machine sitting in the shed that the dealer treats like a hostage. This next part is for you specifically, and it is the part I most wanted to say out loud when I still worked inside. You are not as trapped as they need you to feel. Feeling trapped is the product. Let me give you real steps. First, before you spend another dollar with a dealer, get the machine's own documentation and get it from outside the counter that has been gouging you. Caterpillar operates a service information portal, and independent repair information services exist that sell access to manuals, parts, diagrams, and torque specs for a flat subscription instead of a per-visit ransom. For a lot of the mechanical and hydraulic work on a machine, you do not need a factory password at all. You need the manual you were quietly steered away from. The dealer's whole leverage depends on you not knowing which repairs actually require them and which ones they simply prefer you believe require them. Most do not. Second, there is a booming market in aftermarket and dealer-grade diagnostic hardware and cloned ET-style tools, and there are independent shops that specialize in exactly the reflashes and password-locked operations the dealer wants to keep. I am not telling you to do anything shady. I am telling you the monopoly on the laptop is thinner than they let on, and independent diesel shops break that monopoly every single day. Find the independent injection and control shop nearest you and build a relationship before you have an emergency, not during one. Third, and this is the one nobody at the dealership will ever say to your face, for jobs like dirt work, land leveling, ponds and pads, you do not need a computer-controlled machine at all. There is a whole class of iron waiting for you that has no locked door because it never had a door to lock. I am going to come back to that because it is the heart of the way out, but sit with the freedom in it right now. The trap only works on machines that were built to be trapped. There are machines that were not. So hold that thought, because now I have to tell you how this stopped being a company problem and became a rigged game. This is the layer I sat on the longest, because saying it out loud means admitting what I was part of. For years, the industry's answer to right to repair was simple. They did not fight it in the open. They signed something instead. In January of 2023, the largest farm equipment manufacturer and the American Farm Bureau Federation signed a memorandum of understanding, a formal agreement promising farmers better access to the tools, manuals, and diagnostics they needed to repair their own machines. And the press releases were glowing. Peace in our time. The farmer wins. I want you to look very closely at what that document actually was, because I believe the press release once too. That memorandum was not a law. It was a voluntary promise, signed between a manufacturer and a farm organization with no enforcement teeth that an ordinary owner could reach. Even better, from the company's side, the agreement contained language discouraging the Farm Bureau from supporting new right-to-repair legislation as long as the manufacturer was living up to the voluntary terms. Read that again. The deal to give farmers repair access came bundled with a soft agreement to stop pushing for the actual law that would guarantee it. That is the moment my stomach turned. Because that is the whole scheme in a single sheet of paper. Do not deny farmers repair. Just make sure the thing granting it is a promise you wrote and can walk back instead of a right they hold and you cannot. They did not just profit from your trust. They wrote the terms of the trust. And then they funded and befriended the very organizations you look to for protection. The referee was sitting at the company's table, and it worked for a while. But promises written by the powerful have a way of getting tested, and this one got tested hard. Because out in the real world, the invoices kept coming, and the numbers behind them are the part I could never make peace with. Let me put real money on the table, the kind I used to defend. Independent research and repeated reporting on farm and heavy equipment has found that owners routinely wait days for a dealer technician during peak season, and that portal-to-portal billing means you pay for that technician's drive time from the shop to your field and back at full shop rate before he ever touches a bolt. A repair that a capable owner could complete in an afternoon becomes a multi-day event with travel charges, diagnostic fees, and parts marked up at every step. Now stack that against the thing that hurts most in row crop and dirt work, which is timing. A machine down for 3 days in the wrong week is not a repair bill. It is a lost window. It is a field that does not get leveled before the rain, a pad that does not get finished before the crew shows up, a harvest that slips past its moment. The manufacturers know this better than you do. The leverage of the locked repair is not really the cost of the fix. It is the cost of the delay, and they set the length of that delay by controlling who is allowed to hold the laptop. And here is the cruelest twist, the one that ties back to the vanished scraper. When you finally give up on the computer-controlled machine and try to sell it, you eat the loss again. Buyers now know that an out-of-warranty machine full of locked electronics is a liability, a machine that can strand them behind a password. Meanwhile, the old mechanical iron, the simple scrapers and simple tractors hold their value like gold, because everybody in farm country has quietly figured out that a machine you can actually fix is worth more than one you merely operate. The market has already voted. The auction prices on clean, pre-computer iron tell you everything the sales brochure will not. So you have a machine that costs more to fix, costs more when it strands you, and costs more when you sell it. 3 losses, all flowing one direction. And for years, the only thing standing between owners and that whole machine was a voluntary promise the company could revise whenever it liked. But that is where the story finally turns, because somebody refused to accept a promise when they could get a law. And this is the part I most want you to carry out of here, because it is real, it is recent, and you can use it. In April of 2023, the state of Colorado did what every voluntary memorandum was designed to prevent. It passed the Consumer Right to Repair Agricultural Equipment Act, and the governor signed it into law. Not a promise, not a memorandum, a statute. It made Colorado the first state in the nation to guarantee farmers and ranchers, by law, access to the manuals, the tools, the parts, the software, and the diagnostic capability needed to repair their own agricultural equipment. It took effect at the start of 2024. And the piece that matters most, the piece the industry fought hardest, is that it reaches the software. It reaches the embedded code and the diagnostic access, the exact locked door I told you about, the password behind the counter. Here is why this is your finale, and not just a news item. A memorandum of understanding only protects the people the 2 signing parties feel like protecting, and it can be quietly narrowed or abandoned. A law creates a right you personally can point to, and once one state proves the ground will not open when a repair law passes, the same bill starts marching through legislature after legislature. Similar right to repair efforts for equipment have been introduced in more than a dozen states in the years since. The dam the industry spent a decade building out of friendly agreements and press releases got its first real crack, and it was put there by ordinary owners who testified, who called their representatives, and who refused to be told that a machine they paid for in full was not fully theirs. So here is what you do this week, and it costs you almost nothing. Find out whether a right to repair bill for agricultural or digital equipment has been introduced in your state, because in most states one has, and it is sitting in committee waiting to see if anyone cares. Then make the single phone call to your state representative that the industry is betting you will never bother to make. That is it. That is the lever. The manufacturers spent years and fortunes making sure the fight stayed in memoranda they controlled instead of statutes you control. The Colorado law proved the statute is winnable. Every call moves it from their table to yours. And while that fight moves, use the escape that is already sitting in the used lots and the farm auctions. Buy the machine with no door to lock. The mechanical scraper still exists. Pull-type scrapers and older self-propelled units, machines with hydraulics you can trace by hand and engines with no reflash to beg for, are still out there, still moving dirt, still selling at auction to men who understand exactly what they are buying. Independent manufacturers still build straightforward ejector and pull scrapers that hook to any tractor and answer to no server. The reason the Caterpillar scraper vanished from the job site was never that the simple machine failed you. It vanished because the simple machine could not be controlled, and a machine that cannot be controlled cannot be turned into a subscription. You can still choose the uncontrollable machine. That choice is the whole rebellion. That is the confession I carried out the door with me. The scraper did not die. It was quietly retired because it made you too independent. and I helped retire it before I understood what I was doing. The machine that asked nothing of the dealer after the sale was the machine the dealer could not afford to keep selling you. If any of this landed, it is because somewhere in it you recognized your own machine, your own invoice, your own week lost waiting on a technician who billed you from the shop door. You are not a renter. You never agreed to rent the thing you bought with your own money and your own credit and your own back. You are the kind of owner who believes that if you paid for the iron answers to you and to nobody in another state. That instinct is not stubbornness. It is the last honest thing left in this business, and it is right. So tell me one thing down in the comments, and be specific, because I read them and so does everyone else fighting this same fight. What is the worst repair invoice a dealer ever handed you, and what was the machine, the year, and the fix they charged you for? Name it. Put the number on it. Somebody reading is about to find out they got charged 3 times what a fair shop would have asked, and that knowledge is exactly what they want you to keep to yourself. And tell me where you are watching from, because I want to know how far this reaches. If you have made it this far, you are already part of this. Subscribe and stand with the owners, taking their iron back, one repair, one law, and one honest machine at a time. Next time I am opening up the telematics box itself and showing you exactly what your machine reports about you, how often it phones home, and the one setting most owners never knew they could ask about. You are going to want to hear what that black box has been saying behind your back. You saw why they took the honest machine away. But I stopped right where it gets serious. Inside the circle, I walk you through that whole lock machine trap. And if something puzzles you, you ask me directly, and I answer you myself. No bots. You belong here with us. Just point your phone camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel any time, no risk. Come join me. If you enjoyed learning about this, do subscribe and stay with me here. I have many more stories like this one waiting for you, so take a look around whenever you're ready.